Welcome to Dog Days. I'm your host, Enrique, and the purpose of the podcast is simple. It's designed to give you the tools to stay dialed in mentally, physically, and spiritually. And for everyone who's been following the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, thank you. Appreciate your support. And for those who haven't heard about me, I have some other episodes that kind of share who I am, why I started Dog Days, and then the future of the whole project. So if you hear something you like, share if you care. This episode, really wanted to talk about the anomaly mindset. What's anomaly? It's for those anomalies are people who separate from the norm, status quo, the average. And who better I could share and talk about that topic with than Jordan Bryce here. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do, and your goals and visions for the future.
Well, definitely can't top that introduction, Enrique. I appreciate you, man, for introducing me as well as also bringing me on the podcast here today. My name is Jordan Wilson. I currently am a businessman. I do a lot of things within business, whether that be crypto investing, stock market investing, as well as I also work for a tech company. And I've been doing that for about a year now, which has been pretty cool. Originally from San Diego, California. So shout out California. And yeah, man, I'm excited to get into it today and talk about, I guess, the different things that have helped me to be able to grow and maybe help somebody else on the podcast or who's listening.
Cool. Awesome. Let's get into it. So the first question got to ask, what are some things in today's society that are keeping people, especially men, normal and average?
I would say, I'm going to take a different route on this question, Enrique.
Okay.
So what I think the main thing that's keeping people average is not having a clear direction in their life for what they want. Because one of my mentors always tells me that the first step towards getting anything in life is knowing what you actually do want out of life. So sitting down, taking the time to really evaluate what it is that you want to go after. What are your goals? What are your dreams? Not necessarily the dreams that are sold to you by your parents or by friends or society, for that matter, culture, right? But what are the dreams that you have that are distinct and uniquely to you? And then from there, after you can map that out, you can be able to really start the path. Because if you don't really have a path of where you're going or an idea, then anything else, any other tip or trick anyone can give you isn't really going to work for you, because you're going to get burnt out anyways, or you're not going to feel like that you're moving in the direction that you think is best for you at that point.
I love how you said that. Well, what I heard was you can't hit a goal if you don't have a target. So if you wonder where you're going to be in 3 years, if you have no target, then you already are going to be where you want to be. Because you already don't know which lane to take, which way to take. And I think it's easy to follow what other people say. It's easy to blend in with everyone else. You don't want to stand out too much. So we're just going to follow what everyone else does.
Yeah.
And the first thing that comes to mind for me is social media. It feels like people have found themselves spending hours of screen time on social media, trying to see what the latest YouTubers or TikTokers are doing and start neglecting some of their goals. I also hear, people diving into binge watching TV, Netflix, Hulu, Paramount. It seems like there's all these streaming services out there, and that's something that keeps people at bay. It keeps them from taking the next step. We all know what Sunday does when it's football season. All right, we're all home watching sports from 10 a.m. all the way to 7 p.m. Here on the West Coast. So, what other things do you see going on in today's society that are keeping people, especially men, normal, average?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a few. I do agree with you because of my world paradigm, how I want to be as a man and what things that I want out of life. They don't agree with watching football from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., right? If you're going to watch football, it's cool, you catch your team, but in the day, you have things you have to do, gym, whatever it may be, working on your business, spirituality, going to church, talking to God, whatever that is for you. But I think it just, again, comes back down to what do you want in life? Because if you don't have that very clear, right, my goals are not going to be your goals and your goals are not going to be the next person's. So for somebody who maybe wants to watch football all day on Sunday, I won't even necessarily call that a bad habit. I won't call that something that's even necessarily negative for that person if if that's what their life allows them to be able to do.
Right.
If they say that like, hey, look, I want to have a lifestyle where I can take a Sunday and just watch football all week, well, then probably Monday through Saturday, they're going to have to be doing different types of things. I think where it gets destructive is that when you do anything over moderation, right? If you're not actually prioritizing a lifestyle that you actually set up that you want to have as a goal. And for some people, that may be a more calm one. For others, that may be something that they want everything in life, right? They want to attack every single thing they can get. But I think once you can outline that, then you can be able to outline also what are the bad habits I need to avoid. There's a few that I think are universal, right? Like watching porn, right? I don't think that's probably good for anybody, no matter where you are, or what goals you have in life, whether they're small or big. I would probably say that doing hard drugs,
Draw the line.
That's probably not doing something
for sure.
But I feel like the people who are listening to your podcast, man, like they know that. So for me, or if I'm talking to anybody here, right, like start at knowing what it is that you truly do want and outlining that and being like super vigilant on that. Like I'll die on this hill because you have to be able to really spend the time, spend a day, a week. I know people who spend almost like a month outlining their life, and some may not feel like that's super optimal, right, for efficiency wise, but like their argument would be, I spend all this time being very clear and direct on what I actually want to get out of life. That's going to take me 10 times further once I get going than the person who's just aimlessly shooting at different things. So that clarity, I think, is very key. And I think in our generation, a lot of us don't have the clarity. We're told to go to college. We're told to do this job, get this degree, follow this path, whatever it may have been. And at the end of the day, it's not what you want. And that leads to either burnout, right? Or leads to a situation where you're just not really ultimately happy and going after what is it you truly want out of this life. So, yeah.
You're crushing it on so many different points. One thing that I want to touch on, something you brought up, is that some of the successful people I know, they plan out everything. They make sure that time is the one most important asset you have. You can't get time back. So the way you spend it is the way it's spent. So if you spend just a little time planning the next day, you find yourself so much productive for that day. And it might sound crazy, people spending several weeks to a month planning out their entire year. But if that's what it'll take for them to stay on that right course, onto that trajectory, then it's worth it all in all.
On that point, we all know who Kobe Bryant is, right?
Kobe,
but
Black Mama.
I love if you ever watch one of his old videos talking about his mentality when he goes to attacking anything, right? Like, I think one video was talking about going into the summertime, how he would like write out his goals, or like he would create this contract with himself, right? And then when the summer came, you're actually doing the work, the hard part, right? The goal setting, it can be challenging, but in the day, like that's really the easy part. The hard part is taking action. So once he was taking action on his goals and doing the thing, there'd be moments where he's like, should I change it here? Or should I not do this? Or should I, maybe try this thing instead? And what he would say is like, no, I've already made the contract with myself. I'm not negotiating with myself. And that's what happens when you don't have clarity, is you negotiate. Your goals change. You change what you're doing, and you change how you think about things. And maybe if this was the plan, maybe the plan wasn't long enough. So after a certain amount of time, you kind of just give out and try something different if you're not seeing results right away. I think Kobe did a really great job of outlining like why it's so key to have clarity, because if I have clarity, then I create the plan, I create the goals, and then I'm not negotiating, I'm attacking. And that's what it is.
Perfect. Do not negotiate with your mind. When you start negotiating with your mind first thing in the morning, oh, it's so warm under the covers, do I want to go to the gym? You lose the battle right away.
We all do it. Yeah.
And Kobe is a great example of that.
Yeah.
And your brain is designed to keep you safe and keep you comfortable. And one thing you also touched on was, it's not bad to watch sports. It's not bad to drink alcohol, but in moderation. And that's one of the issues I have with today's society and with guys, is that there's too many things that are at a grasp away, I can order food here to my apartment. I could order groceries to my apartment. I can watch whatever I want on any streaming service on my TV. I could get any fixes I want. We live in Las Vegas. You can even have marijuana delivered to you.
Yeah. Dude.
So it shows all these things are nice in moderation, but we slip into the excess where it's so easy to grab them that we're just going to gravitate towards the easy option every time. So multiple things keeping people average. I do agree with If you don't have a plan or a purpose, then you're just aimlessly wandering through life. I was talking with a buddy the other day, and he looked back at 2023 and he could not come up with something that he was really proud of or something that made a difference. And I feel like people are living the same year over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Just getting older, but still doing the same thing over and over again and not really growing. So that's what kind of keeps people average. That's what keeps them in those boxes, in the basic box is what I call it. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just have a question for you. I guess, like, what would you define as average? Like, when you look at somebody who's average, how do you define that? Because the reason why I asked that question for context is because what you'll learn from me is like I have a very like neutral mentality on a lot of different types of things. Like, I don't think alcohol is necessarily bad, right? I think overdoing it is bad. I don't like, people make the argument of like, I don't think the gun is bad, right? It's the person who's using the gun, right? That's how I see it, right? Like the item itself, the action itself isn't actually what it is. It's just how you perceive it and what you do with it. So like, when you're looking at like somebody who's average, I guess, how would you determine that? And then, because to your point, like, right, you want to be able to avoid those same habits of overindulging into things that can lead you towards that life of mediocrity. How can somebody, if someone's watching, I guess, like, how can they see what average is?
Well, if you are watching this episode and you're wondering, am I average? Ask yourself a couple of things, Jordan. First off, have you improved from last year? What are you proud of? What was something different from last year that you look back and you wear with a badge of honor? If there is nothing, then you most likely are average. I was told if you're not growing, you're dying. That's literally the truth. If you aren't becoming 1% better every day, then you're just getting older one day at a time and you're getting closer to death. If you're not growing, you're dying. If you find yourself doing things that aren't stretching you out of your comfort zone, then it's preventing you from growing. And by you not growing, you're staying the same. By staying the same, you're staying average. And what I found is a lot of people will do things in life to play it safe. They will stay in that cozy job. They'll stay with that cozy friend group. They'll stay in that cozy hometown. They'll stay with those cozy habits, not because, simply because that's what they are used to, and it's uncomfortable doing something different, doing something new. And I think that's where most of growth comes from. So that's the way I would define average.
That's fair. A tip I would give for that, if you want to be able to track your progress, and something that I do, I think it works for me, it has worked for me over the last 2 years, is really actually when you write out your goals, write out the small things too, right? Like, I'm talking very small. Like, if a goal of yours was, I don't know, let's say for me, for example, like I wanted to get my concealed carry permit. I want to be able to carry a firearm, right? So the pathway to that is I probably need to take some classes, shooting at a range. And then from that point forward, I also need to take the actual class itself to get like certified so that I can go in and get the permit. I think that like a way that you can be able to track your progress, right, is the end goal maybe to get that firearm or get like the concealed carry permit, but there's a lot of mini steps in between there that you need to take in order to get there. So so we're actually mapping out those steps. And then once you check off those steps, like I actually have a list of things I have for 2024. For example, I'll put like completed goals for 2024 and I'll actually document it. Wow. So at the end of the year, when you're looking through and you're thinking about, man, what did I accomplish? Maybe it's your friend, right, who's left the year and he's like, I didn't feel like I did anything. Well, you look back and you go, maybe I did a lot of different things. And there's a lot of things I've accomplished. Maybe not. If there's not, then you can look at that and go, okay, cool. I was actually tracking it and I saw nothing change in my life. So I need to do more. I need to push harder. I need to find something different I can do. But just to kind of help with the mentality, help people to really see the progress step by step, like having a way to track that, even the little things that move you in that direction.
Anyone who just heard that, rewind it back, because that is gold right there. To know where you want to go, you almost have to like reverse engineer. Okay, this is where I want to be. What are the steps and actions I need to take today to get me to that goal? I feel like a lot of people, they create that castle in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're going to be big time. Okay, we're going to get that nice place, on the strip, and we're going to go and we're going to go crazy, and we're going to really celebrate. It's like, okay, like that's when we win. But what does it take to win? And it all starts with the actions and the habits you do today to get you to that next step. Okay, Jordan. So next question is, what are some habits that you partake in your daily life that help you keep that anomaly mindset?
Yeah, well, first things first, if you haven't figured out what you want yet, then I would say after this podcast, stop and do that as long as it takes, whether it's a week, a day, a month, whatever, it doesn't matter. But like focus on that first, because I think if you don't have that, then anything else I tell you won't even matter. But after that point, I told you about like tracking your goals, making sure you're keeping up to date with just the progress you're making. And you call it reverse engineering. I love that. Gonna steal that. Got to reverse engineer like, how you're thinking about things and really just take the steps that's needed in order to see success. That's always very helpful. So mapping that out with your clarity plan. But I think for me, right, and this is gonna be different per person, right? I think for me, I'm a morning person. Like not naturally, like actually I don't like waking up in the morning, but I know that I work better if I get my day started early. Mm-hmm. There's some people who are gonna be like watching this, you're like, dude, but I love like going to work at midnight till, you know what? Good for you. Like then you should do that. But I think like a good habit then is really to figure out when do you maximize your productivity. That's a tip. Really study yourself and learn about, okay, what do I really work efficiently in the mornings, or am I, groggy, tired, skating through the day, BSing, right? Then, okay, cool. Maybe I shouldn't probably put a lot of my effort here, because I probably should put my effort into maybe lower level tasks that'll get me going and get me prepared to actually ramp up. And then for someone like me, who's like, I can just hop into stuff at like 6 a.m. and just roll, right? Then maybe you should do that, because you know that probably by like 8 p.m. I'm want to go to bed. Maybe I want to turn on that Netflix show. I want to eat a good dinner and whatever. So at that point, I'm probably just ready to chill. So knowing that by myself, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go 100% pedal to the metal, in the morning, and then from that point going forward. So maximizing yourself is a really good one. Understanding yourself and learning who you are as a person, and then also not lying to yourself. Ooh, this is a big one that I think a lot of people, they do. And you're going to do this probably when you go through your clarity plan, right? Because you're going to talk to yourself about how much you want money wise, or what type of house you want, or what type of relationships you want, or whatever it may be that's your goal. And I think really being clear on, do you really want those things? And not lying about it, because like, again, when you create that plan, you take those steps, it's a contract. You should treat it as such, right? If you signed a contract for anything else, you would honor that. But with ourselves, we always like backtrack and tell it, and say like, oh, I can do it tomorrow, or give a reason, an excuse as why we can't. So really looking at it like a contract and saying, okay, cool, this is what I want, this is what I said I'm going to get, and going forward with that. I think that is really key, and really evaluating like, am I lying to myself about this? Do I want less? Do I want more? I just think that's very helpful for a lot of people our age when trying to take those next steps.
Something that came up when you were talking, my mentor Bobby, he would tell us that the word decide comes from, I want to say the Greek root is like to cut off, cut off all options.
Really?
And if you decide on a goal, you decide on, okay, this is where I want to be, I'm crystal clear on this habit, on this path, then you have to cut off all other excuses, all other options. And if you find yourself kind of, if you're fighting that vision, that goal you had for yourself, maybe that's not the vision or goal that you should go towards. Because you have to be realistic at the end of the day if you want to succeed. And if you set these crazy expectations, like, oh, I want to go to the moon and have a Lamborghini by the end of the year, and you aren't shaking hands with the process, with the actions it has to take, then you are setting yourself up for failure. And there's no surprise at the end of the year when you don't hit it, because you kind of gave up on it. So what I learned is that, I forgot the name of it all, Jordan, but when you figure out you want to do something, you have this optimism, this like what's
it called again? I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's man, what, I know the word. It starts with a U.
If you know it, put in the comments. It's like unexpected or
like because you don't know what you don't know. So like you're excited about like, I'm gonna start a drop shipping store, and like you don't know that like starting a drop shipping store may cost a lot in like running the ad budget, or you don't know how to build a good actual Shopify store,
right?
Or whatever. So you have like this optimism about the goal, and then you realize that like we probably can continue to that gets hard at some point.
Yes, to be an anomaly, you got to do things that are different, and you have to set up goals and habits that are going to make you different. And when you make a decision, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, just know it's sweet in the beginning because you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and that's gonna set me up for that. That's gonna have my parents do this, and all my boys are gonna link up, and this, that, and the third. And then you get to that next stage of where you learn all the crap that you have to do.
Well, I call it mental masturbation. To be candid, right?
Yeah,
like
straight up.
It's just like you're telling yourself, like, "Wow, this feels so great. I'm gonna start the business." You're gonna tell your friends, you tell your family. It's like they're all gonna reinforce you probably and tell you that, "Oh yeah, go for good for you." It's gonna sound exciting. It's gonna sound like you're doing something important, right? So you're gonna feel good, and that's gonna give you that sense of like, "Wow, I'm accomplishing," but you really haven't done it yet.
Ooh,
So like you feel so you're getting all the dopamine of actually accomplishing the thing without having it.
Dopamine.
So when that doesn't really come to fruition, that's where a lot of people get depressed, or they kind of stay in this cycle because they get the dopamine and then they realize, oh, this is hard work. I don't really know if I can do this. It gets tough, and then if they give up, they crash back down, and then they have to deal with also like family, friends, whoever. Hey, where's that business? What happened with that? Or then they have to then they feel bad, and it's this cycle that continues.
I feel like most people in society are great starters, poor finishers. And this is
Oof.
what really separates the average from the anomalies out there.
Yeah.
It's knowing, okay, I want to do this, but also don't be ignorant, don't be
Yep.
dumb,
No
and
doubt.
know it's going to take work, it's going to take the hours, it's going to take the discipline to stay on that path. Again, you have to make that contract with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of average people, they do a lot of talking. Oh, my brother, he's in the social media space, and what he's found is that a lot of people around him, they see the success. They hit over 22,000 followers on Instagram, and there's a lot of people around them saying like, "Oh, no, we're going to do this and that, this, that, and the third." But they've been saying that for the past 6 months. So it's like, what is the work? What have you done in the meantime? I think a lot of people are so quick to talking. They have the mental masturbation, and they are almost satisfied with just talking about it instead of being about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I know the last one's like the sea of denial, where it's just like,
Okay.
oh,
Yeah.
I give up. This ain't gonna work. No, drop shipping. I didn't know a good product that was actually going to sell. I didn't know the behind the scenes. I didn't have a distributor. I didn't have the money, the capital set up. I give up. And that's where most people kind of stop at. But let's keep bringing up the guys like Kobe, who he knew the hard work that had to be put in.
Yeah.
He knew there has to be 3 workouts a day, and was still having time for his wife and kids at the end of the day. But that's where consistency comes in.
He knew he's not going to want to. He knew he was going to be tired, right? Like, I love this saying: the difference between the life you want is just the work you won't do. And if you would, like, it's real though. Like, think about anything you ever wanted in life. I don't know. For me, I can name a few things, right? Like, anytime I didn't get it, it wasn't because of outside circumstance. It wasn't because of the weather. It wasn't because I was black. It was because I just didn't do the work for it. Enough work. And if I could be better, if I knew I could be better and find a way to be better, then I would have it. Because like I in my lifetime, I've never seen anybody who didn't like work the hardest at something and really try and really want it and not have it.
Exactly.
So maybe you didn't want it, but just fine. But I think that's what comes back to having the clarity. There's nothing wrong with not really wanting something. Just like, don't lie to yourself then and tell yourself and everyone else that you do if the work won't be done for it.
It's the focused effort. It's knowing, hey, this is what it has to be done, and then doing it. The hardest part is, it seems hard. It's easy. It's simple, but not easy. All you have to do is show up to the gym every morning. All you have to do is open up that book. All you have to do is listen to that training. But easier said than done. And like I mentioned earlier in the episode, your brain is designed to make you comfortable and to get away from fears. And when you start negotiating with your mind, you start selling yourself short. You start taking the easy road out. You start cutting corners and all things that deter you from your goals. So I think you crushed it.
Well, actionables, right? So I like loving actionables because that was very esoteric, right? That was very mindset. And I think those things are the foundation, because what I'm going to say next, right? You're not always going to have this. You're not always going to be able to just perfectly tailor what's around you in order to really build that life. And sometimes you have to just go. And it doesn't matter what's going on. But I think if you can start with the mindset, then you can be able to have the tools to be able to do that. So that's why esoteric first, but actionables, right? Your environment. Like, if you need to cultivate an environment that allows you to be successful. And I know like for me growing up, when I was a kid, dude, like, grew up poor. It was tough. Shared like a 1-bedroom with my mom, my sister, in my grandmother's home. Had a interesting relationship there, but it just wasn't necessarily ideal for all of us. And I know what it's like to go through a situation where like you don't feel like that your environment is conducive towards success.
Wow.
But you have to find a way to figure out what's your next move, because at the end of the day, like it's hard to say, and I didn't get this at 16 or 7 or 15, but like nobody cares. Right? It just nobody really does. Like it's a great story, and and it's sad, and you can play your tiny violin, but nobody does, and except for you and except for the people who love you. So I think that doing whatever you can, even in spite of maybe not having the best environment, if you don't, to try to figure out what you can do next is really key. So if you have your own room, if you have your own space, cultivating in a way that allows you to be able to work properly, right? So having like a clean desk for me is probably pretty key on making sure I want to feel apt to go to my desk and open the laptop, pick up the book, write in the notepad, whatever it may be for you. Having things really clean in a certain distinct way. Some people love making their bed. I think it's an overrated habit personally. I think like some people are super successful and they don't. But in the day though, like if you need a clean environment in order to feel like that you can work, or if it feels chaotic, then you should do those things. I think that also part of your environment, right, is also talking to people around you who maybe you live with,
right,
and just saying like, hey, I really have this goal I want to accomplish. It usually gets pretty loud here around this time, or usually gets, things may happen. Can we try our best to make sure that we can all work together so that I can accomplish this goal, and this will maybe mutually be beneficial towards you as well in that way. So having conversations with people around you, and then the friends thing, right? Like we were talking earlier, you came all the way from Iowa, man. Like all my friends from high school, I'm not necessarily virtually friends with anymore. I've definitely switched friends and have met new people and stuff. And I think that you have to try to find people who you want to be like and you aspire to be around, because those people are going to hold you accountable. Those people are going to invite you to their podcast, right? Those people are going to you're going to want to have these conversations with and really get down, and they're going to be the people who want to help you when you get sad on life or things are going rough, and they're going to be able to pick you up and carry you to that next level. So finding those people and being clear on that, but then also being the type of person that they want to be around. Okay, right. So digging deep into who you are as a person, as we're talking to men and women. Everybody. Great. So as a man, as a woman, right, being that version of yourself, that best version that somebody, a mentor or wherever that may be, like actually wants to be around you and wants to help you go to that next level. Like that's going to be so key, because I can always look back in my life, man, like whenever I was operating at a high level, I felt like, or that I was doing certain types of things, I tried to those types of people, and they helped me to go to the level that I always wanted to in my life.
Wow, you crushed so many different points there. Environment's everything.
Yeah.
If you want to become a content creator, but you're living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or you're living in Fort Dodge, Iowa, it's possible, but it's not as easy as if you surround yourself in the environment of an LA, of a New York, a Miami, a Scottsdale, a Vegas.
Vegas, yeah.
And what I've learned, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you are trying to hit these professional and financial goals, but you're around guys who are playing video games all day or who are smoking weed all day, and don't be surprised if you start getting drawn into that lifestyle. Not to say that you can't, indulge in some of those stuff. Not to say that your life's going to be over if you don't, but think how far or how fast you could get to your goals if all your guys were on the same path as you, had the same goal as you. You'd get to point A to point B a lot faster. So
Enrique, I do have a question for you then.
Go ahead.
How would you recommend that somebody find these type of friends, right? Because I feel like that maybe some of your viewers may stop and go, maybe it's a question for me too, but some viewers may stop and go, right, like, man, okay, that's great. Change your environment, change your friends. I mean, that's tough, but I got to cut off old boy from the block because he's not doing what needs to happen, but that's cool. So, but how do I find those next level friends? How do I find people I need to be around?
Got you. First off, first thing I'll say, Jordan, you do not have to cut these people out of your life completely unless they are actually holding you back and they are the thing preventing you from getting to your goals and fulfilling your vision. Other than that, keep them around. That's kind of the goal I want for Dog Days. I want to have communities all across America of just dogs that could get together who want more in life, who want to be dialed in mentally, physically, and spiritually. The first thing I will say are meetups. Whether there's so many different community meetups. If you can't find the meetups, there's a thing called Google. Google them. There's some meetup in the nearest city, big city near you. For example, I went to a meetup, a real estate thing here in Vegas called WealthCon, ran by Ryan Pineda and his people. From there, I met some guys who have a Bible study Mondays on Warm Springs. So I go there every Monday, 6 p.m., and it's a bunch of guys, entrepreneurs, franchisers, real estate agents, people who are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate. And there are two 16-year-olds
really
who sit in on this.
Good for them.
And I'm like, wow, these guys, like, they're so far ahead. I just care about girls and soccer at 16. And they have put themselves in these rooms to learn from these men of wisdom who have made the mistakes, who have taken the path that they want to take. So meetups are my favorite thing. I think that's the number one thing to separate yourself from the rest. And you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, because it's hard to learn things from people when you already know the information.
Yeah,
I'm one of the dumbest ones. I'm one of the dumbest ones in the room when I'm at that meetup, and because there's always something I could take away from it. So
everywhere you go, I remember I asked you, like, we first started talking, like, even the small age gap we have, right? You were like, I was like, what can you teach somebody who's 23? What advice you gave me? You gave me great actionable tips, because in the day, things I just won't know until 2 years from now, right? And like, you can teach me those things, and I think if you have that mentality going, everything that you do, you're gonna be successful for sure.
Big time. And find a mentor, whether it's in person, virtual. Due to COVID, it's showed us how simple it is to accomplish things that could have been done in person online.
Yep.
So you don't have to meet that person right there. You could have your mentor across the country, across the world, all on Zoom or social media. And that's ways you could plug yourself in. It's 2024. There is no excuse not to level up if you're looking to level up. So there's all these different places you could go to. Start with the meetups. I'm biased. I go to church. I think church has some of the best people. Still, church is filled with humans. Not saying they're all perfect, but the people who are dialed in several aspects of their life.
Yeah.
And on top of that, already have that business mindset. Find those people around you and stay close to them. And if you want to, what was it called? Follow the master, copy the model. So if you want to learn how to run a car detailing business, find someone who's doing it, learn from them, and then copy the model. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that's some of my tips I would give to someone who is trying to find that community, find that group.
Yeah, no, I love that, dude. That's helpful. I'm definitely gonna use some of those for sure, because we're always probably striving to meet new people and find connections and just good people, right? I think that's the key, right? You want to find good people. One mentor is never enough. I love what Layla Hermosi says, right? Like, your first mentor hopefully shouldn't be your last. Hopefully you should have multiple mentors and who teach you different things, whether it be about how to be, for me, I speak from the masculine paradigm because I'm a man. So how to be a man, right? What being a man entails, what being a good man entails, I should say, or whether it be finances, or whether it be just traveling tips, or someone to just explore the world with, whatever it may be, right? There's different mentors for different reasons. And I think you can always find your tribe no matter what.
I love that. One thing I was told is that you need someone that you look up to, someone that you're running the streets with, and then you need someone that you're pouring into.
I like that.
So it keeps you sharp on all aspects, because you're growing, you're learning from someone who's above you, who's already done and made mistakes in the journey and the path that you are taking. Then you could kind of shoot the shit with the person next to you and learn based off them, and then redefine things, retune things. That way you guys are kind of growing and grinding together. And then the best way to learn something is if you could teach it to someone else.
Yeah.
So there's someone below you, a sibling, a family member who is trying to achieve XYZ goals. Then if you're able to take that information and then teach them, then you're just building a whole cycle of positivity, of people who are trying to go upwards. So Yeah, I think you've crushed on all these points. All right, the next question here is, in a culture that often emphasizes traditional notions of masculinity, how can men embrace an anomaly mindset while navigating societal expectations? When I read this one, it had me think of what was it to be a man in the past. Guys who were opening doors, guys who were working long hours in the hot sun, knowing that it might not be what they feel like doing, but they know what they should do at the end of the day. After hearing that question, Jordan, what are some things that come to mind?
Yeah, no, Enrique. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me, right, and I'm not the masculinity police by any standpoint. Like I'm not gonna sit
You don't
here.
have your PhD in
Yeah, you know
masculinity.
what I mean. Like
Okay, okay.
I'm not gonna sit here and be flagging people down for that's it. That's like not masculine or emasculating yourself, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
But what I will say, what I believe a man is or a man should be is an example, right? And why I love that as like the description for a man is because it's really all encompassing. Because when I think about a great man, the dudes who conquer society, if you even want to look at, maybe controversial, Alexander the Greats, right? Like people like these people who conquered societies and were able to come in and take everything that they wanted. Or modern day, you look at people like, I don't know, they say Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, really high performers or like that. I think like being a man is being an example for your community, for your family, most importantly, and then to God, right? Honoring God in that way. And what that means for you is that you have to do everything. You're gonna have to open the door for your girl, but you're also going to make a lot of money too. You're also going to have to do a lot of these things and carry a lot of the weight because you want to give your kids, at least how I view it, my kids, my sons, my daughters one day, the best example that I possibly
Mhm.
can. And that's going to take being all encompassing. That's going to take doing whatever it takes to show them and provide for them and be there for them. So I think that if you're looking at what being masculine is and you're trying to figure that out for yourself, I think the first question you should ask is what type of example do I want to be to the world around me, to my community, to my church? When people think about me, when they mention my name, how do I want people to talk about me? How do I want them to perceive me? What is it that I want them to be able to maybe even move mountains with through my name, right? Like what type of light do I want to bring to the world? And I think that's where masculinity comes to the picture because usually that'll lead you on the right path.
When I hear the word masculinity, we're looking for role models. And one person that walks the walk is Derek Carr. He's someone that attends Church LV with
Yes,
us.
sir.
And you ask him, like, is he a man of his word? And you can see it. I'm all about proof. I need proof
Yeah.
before I take action or take the next step.
Yeah.
And you see how he treats his wife. You see how he treats his kids. You see how he treats his teammates. You see how he treats his congregation. He's not like up on like a pedestal. Like he's out and about walking through the congregation, laying hands on people.
He prayed over me.
He prayed over you? Yes.
Yeah, I think you remember that. Like,
Oh,
we've been there.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
It was cool. It was like Derek Carr, you know what I mean? So it was
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Big quarterback Derek Carr, multi-millionaire. It's you see him and you put him on this pedestal, but knowing he has all that power, all that influence, and still does what he needs to do and still stays humble, that's masculinity right there. He does what he needs to do and not what he feels like doing.
Boom.
And
Example.
what I'm thinking, Jordan, is, well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Why do you think masculinity gets such a bad rap? It seems like it's such like a trigger word, buzzword these days. Why do you think it gets such a bad rap? It gets tied in with toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Great question. First thing I want to say, I don't think there's really any such thing as toxic masculinity. I know like the feminists are gonna go crazy here in that, but like I truly don't believe there's anything like that because true masculinity isn't toxic. True masculinity is, to your point, what Derek Carr is, right? As an example, is just being an example for the people around you. And if you're trying to be a good example, then you're not gonna do things that are toxic, right? So I don't like the term toxic masculinity. I think it stems from a place of just honestly pure hate, but it is what it is. But like where I think the bad rap comes from, man, is that there's a lot of men because like it's natural as a man in the masculine essence to be competitive. It's natural to want to do really big things and accomplish those things if you have like testosterone flowing and you're a dude, you want to go conquer everything, right? That's normal. I think a lot of men focus on that aspect, which is great, but they forget that like masculinity also encompasses having empathy. It encompasses being able to love on your neighbor, love on the people around you, being able to be soft, have great conversation, be someone that like you can be a shoulder to cry on, for example, right? Like those things are also part of it. And I think a lot of us want to focus on like the peacocking nature of showing off how much money I have, cars I have, whatever it is. And that stuff is great. And if those things motivate you, that's fine. I'm not gonna be the one to knock you. But I will say though, is that that's where I think it comes from, because then maybe women or other people look at that and they go, wow, he's only about money, or he's only about materialistic things. Right. I think if you can showcase a full example, being the full well-rounded person that hopefully we should all strive to be, then even if you have a bunch of money, even if you have all the things that people can want, you're still going to draw in people to love you because they know who you are as a person first, fundamentally.
When I heard toxic masculinity, I heard a professor saying that it first came from how inmates would interact with each other in jail, and how just a bunch of testosterone and a lot of guys in a place, and with all sorts of different things that they brought into that space, that's kind of what brought that toxicity. But now it's being a buzzword tossed around in society.
Yeah. Big buzzword.
Almost way too much. I'm not a fan of it. I think masculinity can't be toxic.
That's right. I don't think it can be toxic. If you're really being a strong masculine dude, right, then like you're not out here putting people down. That's not that. I don't think like negative things are masculine. Like I don't think like talking bad about people are masculine. I don't think having to showcase you're better than somebody because of what you may have makes you more masculine, right? Like, but unfortunately, I guess to your point, that's where it gets mixed up and convoluted, and there it is, So
right. And tying it in with the anomaly versus average mindset is, I feel like a lot of people don't want to step on toes. They want to be open to everybody, inclusive.
Yeah.
So it will hold them back from saying or doing what they know they need to do just to make people happy. And that's not different. You're just conforming to what everyone else does. So you're following the status quo. You're being normal. So what I found is that Jordan Peterson said this: it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yes, sir.
Because at least if you're a warrior in a garden, you're capable of violence. It's not that you're violent, but you're capable of violence when you need to. When the time comes, when it's time to, be that warrior in that debate, in that break room, in that conversation, when you're defending your family, you're defending your values, your goals, versus being someone who doesn't have that in them, and when shit hits the fan and things get tough, they crumble and they don't know how to react. So masculine people, I see, they're well-rounded. They have it all. And obviously we're talking to the guys out there, but we're also talking to the ladies too, because some of the homegirls I talk to, they can't find any good guys.
Where's the good guys at?
Yeah, where are all the good guys at?
Well, then I would challenge the girl though.
What would you say?
Well, I would ask her, well, then are you a girl that's capable or worthy of that type of guy? Right. So it goes back to the mentorship question, right? Like you need to be the type of person that somebody wants to mentor. Okay. Are you the type of woman that a man wants? Like if you can't find good men, right, then I would probably argue that the men that you're only attracting men that you don't want, which means that either you're doing something or you're coming off away, right? And that's just taking and I'm all about like utter accountability, right? So I'm never going to sit here and for myself or for anybody else, like blame outside sources or parties. It's always back to me. It's always back to, what I can be doing better. So for you, if you're a girl watching this, right, like maybe there's things that you're doing a way that you're coming off that the men that you really strive to want, they see it and maybe it turns them off. Maybe they don't want you, and that's fine. Right, you just have to identify it and then maybe tweak some things or change some things that could help you put you in position for that type of person.
All you can do is focus on what you can control.
Exactly.
And if you found that all these good guys are gone, or there's no manly guys anymore, they're too feminine, then you have to take a step back and ask yourself, where am I currently at right now?
Yeah.
And if you want someone who is going to take the lead, then you have to be okay with taking that back seat sometimes.
1000%. You can't. If you are masculine in your energy, you're going to attract femininity to you, right? Like that's just natural. So if you are attracting a more feminine guy, then you're probably coming off in a way that's masculine, right? Which was nothing wrong with that. I don't know. Again, it's all neutral. There's nothing wrong with being a masculine woman. It's just about, do you want to be, and is that okay with you? Having that clarity, right? What do I want? And then at that point, going for it.
And I hear a lot of women, some people, let me just say this. Some people do say, "Oh, there's a lot of toxic guys out there," but there are also a lot of great quality guys out there as well. Are you opening your eyes to them and letting them be masculine to where a masculine guy does come your way? You don't treat him any differently. And if you do end up choosing this guy, and okay, you currently are in a relationship with either a boyfriend or a husband, and you find that he's acting a certain way, just know that you're the one who chose him in the first place. You chose him for a reason, right? You chose him because he's a leader. You chose him because he has all these great qualities.
Yeah.
So let him stay in his frame, and then you stay in your frame. And I feel like that's where the issue is going, because things are starting to get blurred. Like I mentioned, a lot of guys are staying complacent, and a lot of women feel like they have to step up and boss up and be a little tougher to kind of compensate for that. And I think that's where we're having that disconnect there. So,
well, girls will love to hear this though. I do think that a lot of the problems with today do start with men, right?
I agree.
I should say the lack of masculine energy that is out there, right? Like if we had a little bit stronger direction, I think, for a lot of men, and then like a lot of men knew what it really meant to. Again, like I'm not the masculine police. I'm not gonna say that I know everything or know what I do.
Don't have his PhD.
But I will say though, like I feel like that if a lot of men had more direction on what being a strong man is and what is necessary, then they could be able to do that in order to see success. And yeah, they would push in that direction. So I think it just kind of stems from men being clear on what's next and what's necessary in order to be there for their families and be there for people around them.
That's why Dog Days was created. It's to give guys the tools so that they can grow physically, they can grow their mental health, and they can grow in their faith and purpose. I think it is sad when a man goes through life wanderlessly, aimlessly. They don't have anything that they're going to. They're just taking one day at a time. And I do agree, it does take the guy to take ownership. And if they don't like where their life's at right now, they got to do something to change it, because nothing changes if nothing changes. So I think you crushed it there. All right, so we're going to end the episode just kind of doing a fire round where I'll name some things, ask Jordan what his thoughts are on this topic, and how it ties into the anomaly versus the average mindset. So first off, working out.
Well, first I want to say, damn, we're ending already. Like, man, it's been fun talking with you, dude.
Time.
Like,
you're run it back.
Yeah, but working out, I think it's totally horrible habit. Like, no one should do it. No, I'm kidding. I think that I think that everyone should work out in some capacity. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of studies that can define this for you on Google. You can see, but ultimately, right, like working out is a discipline thing. And I think that your body is your discipline. Your body, and the Bible says your body is your temple, right? Like, so being structured and being strong about how you look and your physique will not only boost like your confidence physically and how you view yourself, but also spiritually and emotionally, because you'll be in tune with everything around you. I think that like when you have that strength, you can just move in a great direction, because you already just feel like that you're already conquering one thing, at least in your life. Everything else at that point can become easier.
I was told about the mind-body connection. I'm not a big fan of school and college, but I got my degree in clinical health science. And the one thing I learned is that the mind-body connection is huge. Physiology shapes psychology. So the way you move and the way you interact will really affect your mental. If you find yourself slouched over, kind of slumping all the time, then mentally you're going to be slouching and slumping.
Interesting, yeah.
If you find yourself standing up tall and straight, then that just gives you a little bit more confidence in your brain. And your body is your temple. And when we hear that, I always heard related to tattoos and piercings.
Yeah.
But we don't want to address the fat elephant in the room and talk about
the fat elephant in the room.
Talk about physical health and being active. I'm not saying go crazy and start lifting a ton of weights, do bicep curls for 45 minutes, but simply like starting with a walk, biking, going on a treadmill, just doing some physical activity is something that will really separate you from the rest.
Yeah, guys, like find something that works for you, right? So at the end of the day, like that's gonna be different person to person, but even if it's going for a walk for 30 minutes, like studies have shown walking for 4,000, I think like 6,000 steps a day, like can completely change your life. Like 50% reduce and getting the chance of getting stroke, heart disease, diabetes, also just going for a 30-minute to 45-minute walk. So if you're not doing that, the bare minimum, right? Like you're not really giving yourself a shot to have the best, most having the strongest, having the most vitality you possibly can out of your life. And I just think that just people should really take that seriously, at least.
Perfect. Now, in the context of the anomaly versus average mindset, what are your thoughts on mental health?
Mental health, yeah. Interesting. I think it goes back to the balance of what we were talking about earlier, Kobe. I'm not negotiating, right? And for some people, that not negotiating mindset can be rough on them because mentally it's like, dude, maybe I feel overwhelmed. But I think when you have the clarity of the purpose, your mental health gets better because a lot of mental health struggles, especially I'll talk from the men paradigm because I'm a man, right?
Yeah.
Like comes from not having direction or not feeling that you're actually moving towards somewhere. And any man that I've ever talked to who's ever struggled with their mental health or has had a really tough time, it always was because they felt like I'm in a job I don't like, or where's my life going? Maybe don't have great relationships, girls don't talk to me, whatever it may be. They feel like they're not like progressing. And that progression and that accomplishment helps a lot of times for us men feeling like that we're actually worth something, right? That we bring something to society because as a man, a lot of your value comes through what you can bring to others, right? So I think that having the clarity, man, like going back to the top of the podcast, spending an hour a minimum, just writing down, what do you want? Who do you want to be? What is that character? We have the unique experience of like creating our own version of a character in this life, right? So do that, right? Spend the time figuring out how would that person dress? How would that person speak? What would that person do? What would they eat? All those things are very important. I think once you have that, you get excited again. And then you get out of that depression. And then when you take action and you get that first accomplishment, maybe your body, the working out point, it becomes what you actually want it to be. You win. You get the car you always wanted. You feel like you're winning. Whatever it is, you stack those wins, and then eventually, you're that creator. You're that character you created. So
yes, I was told once you have no obligation to be the person you were 5 minutes ago.
That's so true. Yeah,
you are creating your own image. I look back at high school, and I remember people putting things on me, and me walking out with that being my identity. It didn't have to be my identity. That's what other people had for their expectations for me. Doesn't have to be for me. I can create my own identity, my own purpose, and my own path. So if you want to be someone that's more happy, then start doing things that align with that happiness of persona of yours. And one person that I kind of think about in terms of mental health is someone like Robin Williams. Robin Williams. Yeah, who was voice of Aladdin, won the Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and who ended up taking his own life at the end of the day and leaving his kids and wife behind. And when I hear stuff about like mental health and depression, it all stems from me. I'm not doing this. I'm not where I'm at. This is not where I want to be. I don't have the job that I want to have yet. It's all you. But when you learn gratitude and turning it from you onto the outside to we, it's like, oh, I am grateful for my family, or I'm just grateful to talk. I'm grateful to walk. I'm grateful to see. I'm grateful for all these little things. Then you turn that attention away from all the bad things happening to you to all the blessings and things that you do have. Because all you can do is focus on what you can control and what you have right now. So in terms of mental health, that's probably the biggest thing.
It's the biggest thing. It's like it's more important than your physical, right? Because I think if you have strong mental health, you'll take care of the physical.
I agree.
Right. So I think it all starts there. I always, talking on Robin Williams, right? I just wonder, right, where was the disconnect at some point? You mentioned all his accomplishments. Obviously, we watched a lot of his movies, but like, where did the disconnect come? Where he stopped feeling purposeful in his life on Earth, right? Where he felt like he stopped feeling like he was moving in a direction that he was confident or happy with, whether that be for his kids or whether that be just for himself, whatever it was for, maybe a relationship with God, a higher power, right? Whatever it may be, I just, I always stop and just go, man, where's that disconnect for somebody? Where they decide that, you know what, like I can't fulfill enough purpose here on Earth that it's better for me to be gone
elsewhere,
and it's sad. But again, it goes back to getting the clarity, because even though he had accomplished all those different types of things, he's a good example for you guys to see that like he needed to do an hour, maybe probably for him a month, a year of figuring out his clarity on his plan for life and his new ventures. And that doesn't have to be business. Why does it have to be money? Just like maybe now he's accomplished all these different types of things. He has money. Maybe actually like really work my relationship with God now.
Mhm.
Maybe I really prioritize my family more now. Whatever it
Yeah.
may be, he wasn't able to do that and he chose a different route. But yeah, getting the clarity, man.
It's there's all these question marks on like how, the why, and one thing I've learned is you can't fill your cup up. You can't fill other people's cups up until you fill your cup up,
Yeah.
and making sure that you're filled in. And it might take that planning out. Clarity is the key word of the episode. Having the clarity of what do you want, where you want to be, because at the end of the day, someone who like Robin who had everything, it still wasn't enough. He wasn't clear on what it was enough to the purpose for him to stay around and enjoy life with his kids and his family. So
because you get there and you have everything you ever wanted or you think you wanted, and that's why I said don't lie to yourself, right? Know what you truly want, because if you really accomplish whatever it is that you really truly want, right, then you will feel content when you get there because God blessed you to have it. Because I'm Christian, but like for others, if you don't really have that clarity and you just write things that you think society told you should want, he was very successful, like we just said, right? You may get there and realize it's not really enough, or it isn't what you even really wanted in the first place, and that's where I think disconnect can happen. So get clear, guys. Like I said, clarity is the word.
fantastic answer. Next topic. What are your thoughts on nutrition?
Yeah, nutrition, take it seriously, right? I think that when we're younger, we have this predisposition to think that we have all the time in the world, and it kind of leads to other stuff we're talking about too. Like you don't have some time as you think. You need to go ahead and start taking action. But end of the day, though, right? This idea that we're young, we can eat whatever we want, we can get away with it. I think that these early years, kind of like financially, if you can treat your health the same type of way, you can set yourself up for like years of vitality and feeling great. So taking the time to really just dial in a good nutrition plan, right? Figuring out what foods work for your body, figuring out what diet works for you. Like I'm not going to tell you that you need to be eating meat or that's going to make you be better or that you need to be vegan. I was vegan for 4 months. I lived in Tulum, Mexico. Was vegan the whole time, dude. It was great. I enjoyed it. I felt really healthy. But also at the same time, I felt like I wasn't as happy, right? So maybe there's a balance there, right? Maybe it's like I eat a lot of plant-based foods, but at the same time, I also can enjoy, red meat or whatever else. Maybe just being clear, figuring out maybe your diet plan. I think that's the key.
Perfect. I'm all about drinking water. Always keep a water bottle around you.
Fair.
Your gut is your second brain. So what you take in it really affects the way your energy levels, your mood, and how you interact and react to different situations.
Yeah.
So make sure you're putting good things in you. Eat something green, drink water. Don't go to In-N-Out. I know it's super cheap. I can get my double cheeseburger, my single, and fries for around $12. I know it's cheap, but make sure you're filling yourself up with some good nutritious things. Again, even making food, meal prepping, it's a lot of work, but what's the outcome?
Yeah.
You have nutritious food at the end of the day. You already can grab and go. You save a ton of money in the long run. So yes, that's a great point on nutrition. Next, what are your thoughts on religion?
Religion. I'll give you another R word, relationship. I think that more people need to focus on having a relationship with Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whoever they follow, rather than honestly using the religion for clout, right? Making themselves feel good or maybe sometimes better than others, whatever it may be. I think a lot of people are addicted to the feeling that somebody like Jesus would give them, because Jesus was all-time, man on this earth virtually. He was also God, right? And just like I think that having somebody like that, feeling that you're walking with that person, sometimes goes people's head in the wrong way that I don't think Jesus ever intended. But I will say that I think it is important to have, again, talking about clarity and direction, having something to follow, because what most people don't realize is that, like, I actually don't believe atheism actually really exists. And the reason for that is because we all serve something. We all have a God. Your God may be porn. Your God may be money. Your God may be Kardashians. Your God may be television, right? Your God may be Christianity or Jesus, right? Your God may be Allah or whatever it may be, right? You may be Jewish, whatever it is. But like, if you don't really get clear on that, you're going to serve something, right? So are you serving Jesus, or are you serving the devil? Or are you serving this? That's for you to decide. I'm not going to tell you what's right from wrong, but I will say that making sure that what you're following is actually the example that you want to set, right? I follow Jesus because I think he gives the best example towards how to live your life. And if I can be 1% of the man that Jesus was on this earth, then I'm going to be pretty great. You know what I mean? So I think that people need to figure that out first. And then after that point, really focus on the relationship, right? Focus on what cultivating that relationship means and doing the work, and not just like, showing up to church on a Sunday and saying, like, hey, I'm a follower of Christ. Like really actually doing what the work that it takes in order to have a relationship like you would with anybody else, whether it be a partner or a friend or whatever.
Relationship. You crushed it on one point there. It's you are worshiping something. You're believing in something. I hear the word program, like, oh, I will never let this person program me or that guy program
Always
me.
being programmed.
But we're always being programmed by something.
Yep.
Whether it's the Kardashians and reality TV, whether it's football on Sunday.
That's some people's religion, dude. Every Sunday they show up, they watch football. Nothing wrong with that. I'm saying that's what it is. They don't that's so they have to know that though.
Yes, and kind of shake hands with it. And some of the most successful people I know, they're in the church, they're religious. No one's perfect, but that's what I found. Those people who are close to their faith, it keeps them focused with their goals and their mission. And in terms of being an anomaly, doing things that are different and difficult, they are different because if it was worth it, everyone would have if it was easy, everyone would do it. But because it's not easy, not everyone does it. And to get to those different goals and to move differently, you have to have faith to get through the hard times when times get hard.
I want to touch on that point real quick too. You talked about like making sure that you're actually, I believe you said like you want to make sure that you're actually having a strong relationship there with your chosen higher power, and at the same time that you're also conduct yourself in a way that is of God. I think that a lot of people, again, when you're trying to focus on the relationship aspect, you're going to make sure that you're not like treating people badly, because nobody's perfect is what you said, right? Nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. So if you're focused on actually having a relationship, then you're going to not judge people, you're going to welcome people, right? If you're trying to be religious, I think a lot of times that comes off as like, I'm better. And, you need to, if you want to be an example that can bring people into your religion, you need to be the example of light and like, hey, I mess up too. Let's get together. Let's talk. Let's go have some coffee and let's see where we can help. If we can't, great. If we can, that's awesome. But at the end of the day, let's be a friend, because that's what Jesus was at the end of the day. So, I think that's what the relationship thing should focus on.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Next topic for the rapid fire. What are your thoughts, Jordan, on dating?
Ooh, can I have some context?
Go ahead.
No, can I have some context from you?
In terms of what would make a awesome relationship versus an average one. What we know is that most marriages, for example, they end, half of them end in divorce. So when I hear dating in the context of anomalies versus average, dating, those who are in a relationship, they care, they listen to each other, they're great communicators. It's not 50-50. They bring 100% of each other in, because there'll be days where I'll be 50 and my girl's going to be 100. And hey, I need you to pick me up. I'm not feeling it today. In terms of your health and wellness, you want to make sure that you're fit so you have the right amount of energy to give someone. As a man, I want to have the power to defend my woman if I need to defend her. What I find is that a lot of the average relationships, there's disconnect. When there's a problem, instead of running to their partner, they run to their homegirls, they run to their family, they run to their mama. And instead of having that tough conversation with their significant other, they have it with everybody else. So that's some context there in terms of dating.
Yeah. So basically what you're describing is a mutual exchange, right? Like you're talking about, I provide protection and provision. I'm sure there's things that you expect from her to come back with you in the relationship, and you guys flow off each other wherever is needed, wherever we need more be poured in the cup. That's where she comes. Yeah. When I look at relationships, man, and dating, it's interesting, dude. I think that the first thing, and actually I love this quote, or I don't know if it's a quote, but I just heard it somewhere, that really in the day, what it comes down to in a relationship is how selfless are you willing to be for the other person? Wow. How much are you willing to sacrifice for that other person, right? Because I don't think that the argument of like, you never loved me or I never loved you, or the lovey stuff, like you can love somebody and like there's limits to what you're willing to sacrifice for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't mean like, I don't love you. It just means that like there's just places I'm not willing to go, things that I'm willing to give up, things that I'm not willing to not do to have you in my life, right? And I think that's where the disconnect comes in most relationships, because people are in these relationships and they're like have these expectations that like you'll do anything in the world for me, and we say that because it sounds good, but it's really not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then when anything in the world comes up, it's like, oh, maybe not that though,
Yeah.
right? So maybe I won't give up the drugs and alcohol because I enjoy how it makes me feel.
The party life.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I know it doesn't align with you to be in this relationship, but I like this a little bit more. So either you're going to be with me or you're not, and they break up or they have arguments because then the person who's not happy stays, right? So I think for anybody who's looking to date, and it's easier said than done, right? How selfless are you willing to be? Because the more selfless that both parties can be, I think the better the relationship, right? Imagine a relationship where you and your girl are not arguing, but like going back and forth over sharing the cookie versus going back and forth over who gets to eat the cookie, right? That's a totally different conversation. It's like, no, babe, but I want you to eat. I want you to make sure but you guys are taking care of each other, versus like one person's like, no, you're gonna take my last cookie. You know what? Then you're taking it from her, and then you're arguing, and it gets really big. That's a very obviously simple example, but like apply that to anything else in life. It comes from a lack of selflessness, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just be clear, right? That like, hey, I'm not gonna give up the hose. like if you're not gonna do that, then cool, bro. Like that's great. Then you just need to be clear, and you don't need to lie to her and say that you want to be monogamous.
Perfect.
Because then she's going to have this expectation, and then if you go and do something, then like that is what it is. So yeah, not to call women hoes, but to do something.
Keeping a buck.
Keeping a buck. What I mean? Just like that's just what it is. Like I think that a lot of people just aren't clear with each other on what it is, and they just it goes that way. So
it reminds me of I had a buddy, and he comes to me and he's just like, yeah, man, my girl, did you see what she posted? And I was like, no, I don't. I didn't. And he shows me a photo, and she's a gym girl. She does gym content, and it was glute day.
So it was good.
Enough context. So he was just like kind of frustrated. He didn't know how to go about and talk to her. And in my mind, and what I told him at the end of the day was like, you met her when she was a gym girl, posting gym content, and now you're upset because she's posting gym content. Like, this is how you found her. Like, if your girl was going to the club when you found her, don't be upset if she's still going to the club when you're dating.
So, or what you need to do, again, back to the selfless thing, right? Like, one or the other has to be selfless. So either you have to go, you know what? I'm just going to give up my feelings and my emotions for your career, because I'm assuming that she's doing that to build a brand, I assume. I don't know. But, she's trying to build a brand. I'm going to let you build a brand. This is what it takes. I'm going to put aside my feelings and my emotions, and I'm going to let you do that. Or you have the conversation early on and like, hey, I really do like you, but like this is not the type of things that like my girl would do.
Non-negotiable.
And then she has to be selfless and say, I really want to be with this guy. I guess I got to stop posting these type of photos, right? Where the problem comes, where maybe your boy's experiencing, right, is that like no one is clear on who's being selfless.
Clarity,
right? No one's clear on who's being selfless, so nobody is. She's posting, he's mad, argument.
Yes.
I want to build my brand. Oh, but I want you to be my girlfriend, and then it's like, well, I didn't know being your girlfriend until me not doing this and stuff on, so yeah, dude, I think selflessness, clarity, I guess it always comes back to clarity, right? Selflessness, though, I think that's the key.
Perfect. I was told no one's perfect, and if you want to have this dream girl who does this and says that, then rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. If you want a girl who's 8 or 9 in all aspects, mentally, physically, and spiritually, but you're 4 in those aspects, then you have to take a look in the mirror and actually get real with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. And like, is this where I want to be? And don't be silly expecting a girl like that to come your way if you aren't showing up that version for yourself. So,
fair. Yeah.
Last one. What are your thoughts on career?
There's a lot of different ways I can take this. I guess I want a little more context from you.
Okay. So in terms of career, I hear follow your passion and do what you feel is cool. And then on the other hand, I hear do what makes you money, do something that's going to provide value in the marketplace. And what we find is that uh, on another note, people who stay average and stay complacent, they stay in the same thing that they know is going to bring the X amount of money. I can put in X amount of hours, and this is where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Versus the anomaly, who, they have their 9 to 5 for income, so they can pay rent, pay the bills, feed the family, but they're doing that thing on the side that they also want to make a future career. So, have you had something that you have wanted to make a career that you've kind of stepped away and got out of your comfort zone just to achieve that goal?
Yeah. So on your first point about the difference between passion and going maybe for financial gain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that somebody should never stay in a job because they know how to do it. You should stay in a job, or you should go for a job because you're great at it and you can excel at it. There's a difference, right? Like you can excel something that you know how to do. That's fine, but like you're excelling, which means you're going to, maybe if it's sales, you're gonna make a lot of money. If it's if it's customer service, you're gonna be the best at that. If it's products, you're gonna be building the best product to maybe get a great bonus. Whatever it may be, is if you're actually really great at that thing, right? Then sure, you can stick with it. I think that a lot of people prioritize the passion thing. It's overrated because you'll love whatever you're great at.
Right.
Like if you get really great at something and you put your all into it, like, I mean, Patrick bet David, right? I'm sure he didn't. Oh, I know, because based on the story, he didn't jump into insurance saying, "I want to be an insurance salesman." Like he didn't. That was probably wasn't his dream when he was 8 years old, right? But in the day, he ended up getting in that route, took that path, became the best. Exited his company for hundreds of millions of dollars, and now he gets to be, sit on this podcast and do his thing and talk about things he likes to do and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like, it all kind of circles back around when you prioritize being great at something and then realizing that you'll like what you get great at. No one likes what's hard, right? If you're not good at it, it's not like fun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But in the day, once you get better, I think you'll start to enjoy it. So I'd say prioritize that, because that's probably really good advice for a lot of people who are maybe starting out in college, right? And they're choosing careers based on passion. But liberal arts is literally, statistically, you have the most chance at finding a job that is mediocre to subpar at best right after college, and burning through. I mean, God forbid you go to a college that charges you $200K for the 4 years. But I mean, like if you go into, like, that's one example. Political science is another one, right? Like you choose these degrees that may not equate to dollar signs, right? Mm-hmm. You end up feeling like that's where people feel like they got screwed by the college system, right? They got in all this debt, they just followed the path, and they still haven't made it anywhere, or they feel like they haven't made it anywhere. And I think that's comes from a lack of clarity on knowing what actually makes money and if you can actually be good at that thing.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Bet David talks about a story where his father goes to the hospital, and he's in the hospital, and Patrick's just talking to the nurse and saying, mm-hmm. "You guys aren't doing this. You guys aren't showing him enough attention. He doesn't have these resources. He's not doing this, that, and the third." And he was talking till he turned blue in the face, and the nurse turns around and looks him dead in the eye and says, "Well, this is all the insurance. This is what your insurance covers. It's not our fault. That this is all the resources we have. Then the only reason you're here is because your insurance paired us with all these resources to this building. So if you want better care, get better insurance." And that really was like a wake-up call for him to take it to the next level and take it to the next step. And for those who are trying to take it to the next level, you have to make sure you set yourself up properly, whether it's get the right skills, get a degree, study something that is going to make you money at the end of the day, and do your passion on the side. Not saying stop doing your passions, but do something that's going to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And that way you can get yourself to that next level in your career, or find another career. I heard about the guy who started waste management. Do you think he loved trash?
Not at all, man.
No, but he knew it was going to make him money and set him up and his family up financially. Mm-hmm. So that way he has the freedom to do what he wants to do, mm-hmm. to follow his passions, to go to waste management tournament in Arizona and have fun like that.
And here's a hack too, right? Here's a hack that easier said than done. But if you can accomplish it, you're going to be unstoppable.
Okay.
Rather than like wanting to do your passion, right? Or rather than like choosing like what would make you happy in the moment, choose like the mentality of like, I just love the game, right? If you love the game of it's entrepreneurship, you love the game of making money, if you love the game of being the best at your job, whatever it is, right? You're going to enjoy that, and that will feel you enough. You won't need a certain title, or you won't need to have to be doing a certain type of thing. Because if I like entrepreneurship, right, like statistically, like showing that I probably am gonna have a hard time starting a restaurant over a digital education business, right? Where I sell maybe like a course on X, Y, and Z, or like a program that can teach people how to do a thing. Like that's way more profitable, and I probably make a lot more money quicker than if I went and tried to build a restaurant right now, right? So even though that may be your ultimate passion in the day, just finding a love for the game of just playing the sport, which is business for us, right? Go in, do your thing.
Or like falling in the game is huge because then you're not staring at the clock all day.
There you
Because you
go.
just get lost in the grind, and it's something that you kind of wake up and you're ready for instead of forcing yourself to do. So, perfect. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you guys for getting to the end of the episode. We talked about the anomaly mindset and things that we have done that have helped us in our lives, as well as some of our mentors separate themselves from the norm. Then we talked about what things that keep people in the norm, that keep people with the status quo, keep them average, and then the state of masculinity and the future forward. So thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe. We're on TikTok. All right. We're on Instagram. I need you guys to follow. Subscribe on YouTube. And for everyone that, who likes something Jordan said, you want to follow him, learn more. Jordan, where can people follow you and find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at It's J Bryce's World. So ITSJBRYCES World, WORLD. Long username there, but yeah, you can follow me there. And right now, I have a lot of my modeling content up from there, and then some of the stuff I've done on YouTube. Not really too much on like the personal development side, but talking to my boy Enrique, like has me a little inspired, right? So down the road, it's probably in the plans for me to start talking about stuff like this. And if you ever need any advice or want to talk about anything, or maybe you didn't like anything I said on here and you want to debate me on it, I love good, friendly conversation. So DM me and let me know your thoughts, and I'm happy to go from there.
Yeah, we're gonna have all his handles and social media information in the bio below. And you can follow me on OTW Enrique, on the way Enrique. And before we let the audience go here and let you go back to grinding, what's the piece of advice you have for a listener or a viewer right now?
Piece of advice. I would say that, guys, really try your hardest to have in my opinion, have a neutral mindset when it comes to life, right? Because it's not about the things that happen to you, it's about how you perceive them in the day, right? Like two people can take two different situations or the same situation and have two different perspectives. So really formulating a strong perspective, I think, will be the difference maker and if you are successful or not. Because life gets hard, you're going to feel depressed, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel like you're not making progress. But if you allow that to deter you, then we said earlier, no one's coming to save you. So if you don't have your own team, if you're not on your own team, don't have your own back, then who else will? So yeah, guys, just try to be neutral about things and be able to come to a situation just with hoping for the best and flow from there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, highs and lows, staying neutral because you're gonna have those peaks and valleys. Staying tranquil during all of it, even keel.
People call it stoicism, right? Being
stoicism. Even we love to hear that. So thanks again for listening, tuning in. And if something you hear resonates with you or it might help a friend out, share if you care. Peace.
Peace.